Welcome back to the RADBMX Builds podcast. I'm Sean, the owner, and on today's episode 7, we're going to be talking about the top 10 BMX build tips. This episode is sponsored by Flite BMX. Flite is still making BMX pads, grip donuts, seat covers, and number plates that you rode with back in the day. Whether you're carefully restoring the bike of your youth or building a brand new bike, Flite re-releases of the original products are carefully made to give you the same authentic pads that you grew up with. Check out FliteBMX.com for all your pads and BMX accessories, or give them a follow on Instagram at FliteBMX. Thank you, Flite, for sponsoring this episode. Okay, I picked out 10 of what I feel like might be some of the most important things when building a custom BMX bike. These are kind of in order, and I sat down and I thought kind of long and hard about what would be the best tips that I could give someone, the best advice someone could have gave me when I started out building BMX bikes. You might be a novice builder, an experienced builder. Take this information for whatever you want it for. Maybe you've never built a bike, and this will help you build your very first rad BMX bike. Okay, let's jump right into it. I've been doing this for about a decade now, and I've been doing the podcast really not that long. So if you're new to listening to it, make sure you follow the podcast. And if you are watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. It's absolutely free, cost you nothing, and we deeply appreciate it. Okay, number one, the first thing you got to do when building a BMX bike is to find a good foundation. And what do I mean by that? Find a good frame and fork set, something you like, something that's nostalgic to you, something you have a connection with. It doesn't have to be the most popular, doesn't have to be the most expensive. I actually recommend staying away from the most expensive bikes out there. I also make sure when you buy a frame and fork set that you buy a frame and fork set. Don't buy just a frame thinking, I'll find the right forks for it later. That is almost impossible. And if you are buying old school BMX forks, people know that and they charge a ton for, let's say, 1987 GT Performer forks. If you can only find the frame, you may want to consider that you may never find the forks for that. Also, you can start with a full bike if you want a complete bike. No big deal. Just don't overpay for either the frame and fork set or the bike. Because if you ever want to sell it, right now is where you're saving the most money on your build is the purchase of that foundation. Number 2, pick a color scheme. Pick something that's going to have good color balance. This is crucial. And that means the decals, the powder coat, the parts, it all has to come together in the end. And we'll talk about that later on in this list. But you've got to have a color idea in your head. Maybe you're mimicking another build. Maybe you're trying to make it look like a catalog bike. Maybe you're going full custom. And if you are going full custom, make sure you don't overdo it. So we'll talk about that a little bit later too. Number 3, pick a part scheme. And when I say a part scheme, maybe a part list, if you will, I try to keep the parts and components mostly to a brand or two. They seem to go together better. For example, GT. If I want to build a GT and I want to use GT parts, try to use GT cranks, GT seats, GT seat pads, GT grips if you can, GT bars. There's so many GT parts out there. It's sometimes better to build it so it all kind of goes together with the parts and components that go with that brand. If not, you want to go completely off brand and use a third party, so to speak, brand. Maybe you're going to use Diacomp brakes. Use Diacomp levers. Use Diacomp brake cables. It just goes together seamlessly and it'll affect the overall look of your bike. Another little quick tip when choosing colors is I always try to use the same color seat, grips, and tires. Meaning, if I'm going to do black tires, I'm probably going to do a black seat and black grips. If I'm going to do blue tires, you get it, blue grips, blue seat, blue tires, so on and so forth. That'll give the eye a good balance when you look at the bike. If you had like yellow grips, red tires, and a blue seat, that build's gonna look terrible. Trust me, there are builders out there that do that, and the bikes are just kind of hard to look at. You want your bike to catch the eye and pull in the viewer or the judge or your friends and have them start to now look at the bike, the build, and the details. I'd like to take a moment to thank our sponsor, KDG. Running a business means juggling 100 things at once. Your network security shouldn't be one of them. KDG Network Engineering takes that worry off your plate. They monitor, maintain, and secure your network so you can sleep better at night. Monthly audits, vulnerability assessments, the works. And they start with a completely free network assessment. Check them out at kdg-neteng.com. Finally, one less thing to worry about. Thank you, KDG, for that sponsor. Number 4, not all colors are the same. Not all blues are the same color. Blue meaning the rubber, the plastic, and the anodized blue parts are not going to go well together. Find that balance. Same goes for gold. There are 50 shades of gold when you're building a BMX bike. And I found this out the hard way early on. So I'm trying to save you. If you're building a bike and you want to use a lot of blue parts, maybe only stick it to the soft goods, the blue color, or maybe only stick the blue to the hard goods. And what do I mean by that? The brakes, the anodized parts, make sure that they're all the same blue, or make sure the pads, grips, seat, and tires are all the same blue. When you start trying to blend these things together, it's gonna really throw off all the different hues of blues and or golds when you try to blend them. Those are the 2 hardest colors. When in doubt, go with black, go with silver. It's just a toned down, and then you can use color in other areas on the bike. Number 5, stay classic and true to your build. Not a purist, and what I mean by that is don't be tacky. Don't overdo it with your colors. You don't want your bike to be a theme bike like an Orange County Choppers regurgitated onto a BMX bike. You want your bike to be appealing. You want it to look nice. You want to be happy with it. You don't want yellow tires, green rims, orange seats, purple grips. It's just going to look like a crayon box threw up all over your bike. So make sure you stay classy with your build. It doesn't, like I said, have to be a perfect purist build. Even if it's a full custom build, it can all be black, white, and silver. It doesn't have to pop. It doesn't have to have crazy colors to have a custom build. It can be very toned down and still very custom. For example, I built a Tough Guy Tan PK Ripper, and it's just tan and black, 2 colors. Or I've gone crazy and I've built neon pink GT Performers, where I used white and silver and stuff like that. You can be crazy, you can be pretty tame and still build a rad custom bike. Number 6, choose name brand parts like brakes and things like that, because it's going to add to the overall quality of your build. If you're going to use brakes, go with names like Dicomp, because they are well known in the BMX community. You can still find them pretty readily available, and they offer all kinds of accessories for Dicomp brakes. You can do locking levers, you can do a race brake, a freestyle brake, you name it, they got it. Just try to not mix them up. So use brands that kind of go with each other. It'll make your build look a little bit better. It'll also make it easier when you're trying to match colors with, I just keep going back to brakes, but let's say your seat post clamp and your stem, if you want to use a certain brand, like even style would impact that. If you had a GT mallet stem and used a GT seat post clamp, they just go together versus like, I don't know, if you used a Pro Neck stem and then a Tongi seat post clamp, they don't seem to flow as well. You'd probably want to use a Pro Neck seat post clamp as well. So keeping on brand with those parts will also flow better with your build. Number 7, lay it all out. Take a good look at everything. Picture it in your head. Make sure that all those colors are going to go together before you assemble the bike. This is your chance. If it doesn't, if it looks off, if things don't match, it's okay. You haven't assembled anything. Buy the right piece or try again. Maybe go a different direction at this point if you have to. I've had to do it. Sometimes I'm ready to build a bike and I realize that part's not going to go with this build. And then I'm waiting a week for another part and it really sets me back. It's okay. I would rather have the right build than not have the right build and post photos of it, show everybody with the excuse of, oh, that part's coming. Oh, I'll fix that later. I don't reveal it until it's completely done. And then there are times where I'm kind of like, maybe that bike needs a refresh and I will change parts out. But the initial build should be the way you initially visualized it. And then when it's done, it's done. Also at this stage, make sure you have all the right size pieces. Make sure your seat post clamp is the right size for your seat post mast. Your seat post is the right size for that tubing. Make sure you have the right bottom bracket. So these are all really important parts and pieces that you're now going to want to start testing to make sure that when you build your bike, you don't run into these problems. Okay, number 8. Lightly lube all of your threaded and bearing pieces with some good lubricant. I usually use a lube called Crystal, and you can find that in my Amazon store. The link's down below. It is a clear bearing grease. Nothing worse than someone putting on bearing grease and you see it start to come out and it's like a brown or a green. It should be, the clear is the best one. It honestly is. You're going to want to use a moderate amount. You don't want to overdo it. You don't need to goop your bearings full of bearing grease. Just put it on your finger, rub it around the bearings, move the bearings around, make sure they're all coated with it, and then you can put your bearings in. Your threads, put a little on your finger, work them around the threads, so when you put on the nut, it'll thread right over the top of it and you won't get the metal on metal binding that you don't want. The last thing you want is to cross thread anything when building a bike. So use your fingers, go slow, make sure it smoothly goes on. You don't want to use a wrench and try to start a thread or you're going to end up absolutely destroying the top of your forks, your pedal, or whatever you're trying to thread in. Be careful, start everything with your fingers, and then once it's all the way threaded, tighten it down with a wrench. All right, number 9, assembly time. Now you get to have the fruits of your labor and you're putting it all together. My recommendation for you, or my tip, is do not over tighten down your bars or your seat post yet, or even your brake levers yet, because you want to mock up the bike, so to speak, on the table or on the stand, whatever you're building. And then once it's all done, you set it down on the ground and you hover over the bike. You get on it. Don't quite put all your weight down on the seat yet. Don't quite yank on the handlebars yet, but move them lightly into the position that you want them and then tighten them down. Your seat might have to come down a ½ inch or up. Your bars have to go forward or back. Once you get it situated, then tighten it down and you'll be good to go. Before you ride off, do a full nut and bolt check. Check every single nut and bolt on that bike to make sure they're tightened down and working. Also, before you take off, I know you want to ride it so bad and you want to do a 360 off that jump. You need to make sure everything works. A very mild test ride down the driveway, up the driveway, turn, brake, pull up on the bars a little bit and then a little bit more. Make sure nothing's going to come out, come apart, or come loose before you take that bike out for that ride out, for that session, whatever the intent you have for that bike. Because the last thing you want is the brakes to not engage or something to break or come off while you're riding. All right, number 10, my absolute favorite. Details, details, details. They matter so much in a custom build. Make sure you don't overlook the details. This is your opportunity to shine. Take it, enjoy it. Add things to this build that aren't necessary, but add to it. Things like number plates, grip donuts. You can put brake cable ends and they can be anodized a color. Valve stem caps, brake guards if you can find them, pads from Flite, pads that say RADBMX that you can buy from Flite in the link down below, little selfless plug. But all of these little things are going to help your build stand out. I see a lot of freestyle bikes run dice valve stem caps, and race BMX bikes use the Acorn anodized valve stem caps. These are all great things to put on a bike to make it stand out. When I go to a show and I'm looking at custom built bikes, I see the regular plastic valve stem cap on it, I think, what a missed opportunity. Or I see they put on Amy grips and they're twisted and turned, and the Amy logo is not on top and on bottom, but like at the 1 o'clock and the 7 o'clock position. These are just lazy builders. You need to take your time and have that eye for detail and go over it and over it to make sure it's perfect. I like to either line up the tire logo with the valve stem or make it 180 degrees across from the valve stem. Attention to detail means everything and will set your bike apart from everyone else's. Once the bike is done, you should be proud of yourself. Follow these 10 tips. There's so many more, but these are just the 10 I wanted to pull out. Now that you're proud of your build, get it out there. Photograph it in a very well-lit area with a clear background without shadows, especially your shadow covering the bike. Let us see the right side drivetrain side of that bike. Get a 3/4 angle, get a down low angle, get some cool shots. Share them online, share them with your friends. Ride your bike, bring it to shows, enjoy it, because honestly, that's what bike building is all about. Sharing what you did with friends and other bike enthusiasts. And a little word, never bash another builder's bike. They have passion into that bike. They have money and time into that bike. If you're bashing another builder, shame on you. It's for them. They didn't build it for you to your liking with the parts that you liked. They built it how they wanted, the way it should be, because that bike means something to them. I appreciate every single one of you. I appreciate the sponsors of this podcast. And as always, stay rad.